Amber. Mhm.
Okay, we need to roll, and I'm supposed to do this. Welcome everyone to the Mid-Level Show. No, I am not Andy, but I love him like a brother. I am here with Kara Cairns in Knoxville and Amber Butler in Kingsport, our wonderful nurse practitioners. Guys, thank you for letting me do this for one. I have to tell you, the Mid-Level Show is my favorite show, and it's something that I've wanted to get on, and it took Andy being out of town in order for me to do it. So guys, introduce yourselves. How's everybody doing? Amber, start with you. How's your day?
It's great. I got my hair done today, as everybody's going to be able to see on the, in the world that's watching. No, it's been good. It's good.
Okay, hair looks
Looking forward to July 4th. Yep,
That's
family's coming in town.
awesome. Your hair looks amazing. Kara, how are you doing? I saw you this morning.
Hello, doing great, doing great. Happy Tuesday to everybody.
It looks like you're in the wonderful Franklin Square office.
I am. I'm in the Knoxville office.
Where we were this morning. We were doing some filming with our new esthetician there, Jasmine, that we're super pumped about. But we're also super pumped about Men's Health Month. June has been a really special month for performance medicine because of the emphasis that we put on men's health and hormones in particular. This last one, the most recent doctor's note that Dr. Rogers sent out was, to me, a summary about what men's health means, and he goes into some of the myths of testosterone. Amber, just give me your first impressions on this week's doctor's note and kind of Men's Health Month in general.
Well, the thing I wrote down while I was listening, the two things that stuck out to me was that one of the most common myths that I talk about with patients or hear from patients is about cancer. You know, am I going to get prostate cancer? Oh, I had a friend who had prostate cancer, and I thought Dr. Rogers did an excellent job dispelling that. Even women who come in about talking about hormones that are concerned. And then the other big thing was pellets, just how important and what a great job those do. And I kind of wanted to expand because he mentioned them and how beneficial they are, but I wanted to explain why they are and why they are the most like your body or bioidentical is because the type of pellet that we use is a slow release pellet. So it is in your body and it's slow release as if your body was producing the hormones. So that's why it's the most bioidentical and really the most bang for your buck because it may be more expensive at the front end, but these are going to last 4 to 6 months typically. And, you know, when you're doing shots weekly or a 3-month prescription, so pellets are a great option. And I wanted just to expand on that a little bit.
And we're going to jump back there, Amber. Kara, tell me kind of your first thoughts this past week's doctor's note, as well as just Men's Health Month in general. We've been talking about all things men's health, and I know you guys see a ton of men in the clinics. What's your thoughts, Kara?
Well, like Dr. Rogers said, that men need to pay more attention to themselves and how they have more risk factors like obesity and heart disease, and that they need to, pay more attention to their health, go to the doctor more regularly, and even not wait until there's symptoms of low T, but other things too, just for a regular visit. And so I think that's important, just to pay more attention to their overall health.
And listen to their wives. Did you hear him say that? I thought, I love you, Dr. Rogers.
That was very
Listen to your wife.
Very clear. The interesting part to me was he explained hormones as an entry point to get men into the doctor. And I think if there's anything that patients, men, women, around that age, where you start to think about hormones, and you start to think about longevity, your health span. I think that's the biggest thing I took from it is low T tends to get men into the doctor, and from there, if you know what you're doing, you can help that man or woman, kind of lead the next 20 years of their life. And what he says it in a particular way in this note about, we can kind of see what's going to happen to you in 20 years and do what we can right now to help prevent that. And I find that really cool about hormones in general and our setup as an office, is that we have that opportunity. Amber, talk a little bit more about the cancer thing, because that seems to be the biggest problem or concern people have is, you hear these things about hormones causing cancer or just not being good for it. What's your thoughts on that? What have you heard from Dr. Rogers with that cancer conversation?
Well, what he said, and really even how he said it just on this most recent doctor's note, I hadn't really thought about the logic of the fact that when you see men, the average age of men getting prostate cancer, or it's when they have low T. It's the fact that testosterone is protective, and I think one thing that's important and why we stress to patients, testosterone is not going to give you cancer, but we do check your prostate, your PSA, to make sure we're not feeding a cancer. Same with men, same as women with breast cancer that may be estrogen fed. So we're going to be more attentive to checking levels and doing this kind of screenings and making sure you're up to date on your mammograms and your pap smears, not because it's going to give you cancer, but there is the potential to feed an underlying issue. So, but just the fact that, like he said, think about the men who get prostate cancer are older men who have low T.
Right.
So that's your risk factor.
Carrie, you want to follow up on that? Because I think that's such a big deal. Do you have anything else around the cancer topic and that myth that he talks a lot about?
Well, also too, that that how not only protective, but how he said it, it calms men down. They sleep better. They don't have joint aches, and that actually has other secondary benefits rather than the risk. So I think that's important too.
Speaking of some of the other myths, what's the feedback you're getting from patients in the clinic, specifically women, in their thought process around testosterone? Because coming from a non-provider, that was something that stood out to me about testosterone being good for women as well. Carrie, you want to give your 2 cents on that?
Well, their main concern is facial hair or a deep voice or these manly like traits that they're concerned that they may develop. But one thing that we stress and strive for here is keeping hormones appropriate for men, appropriate for women in within range at optimal levels, to where we don't have these high levels where they could have some adverse reactions. But women need testosterone for their brain, their bones, their skin. It has so many other benefits when it's done correctly.
Now, Amber, what do you think about when Carrie says doing it correctly? If I'm a woman who's concerned about some of those things, how do you guys reassure them? Because I would imagine that would be a concern. You come out with, facial hair, a deep voice, and, testosterone is associated with men, obviously. But what this note is saying, and what, I know Dr. Rogers talks a lot about with you guys, is testosterone is very necessary in women, just like it is necessary in men, just in a different way. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
Well, I assure them, as Kara was saying, about how we administer it. We're not giving women the same doses of testosterone we're giving men. We're not, I've had a few women that have ran high, whether they were, some were in competitions, competitive type bodybuilding situations. And Dr. Rogers was like, well, they might grow an Adam's apple. But he's totally kidding. You're not going to do that. The main thing, though, is we administer a much smaller dose than we give to men. It's not proportionate. It's not 1-to-1, men and women. And we monitor your hormones along the way. We watch for those signs and symptoms. And really, that's going to be more unlikely the way we administer it.
Mm-hmm. I think go ahead, Kara. Go ahead, Kara.
Sorry, balancing it with the progesterone and the estradiol with the testosterone too, and making sure all three of those, women are a little more involved in treatment because we have 3 things to regulate, but also keeping them balanced with the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
What Dr. Rogers says a lot that I love and resonates with someone who, isn't a provider and doesn't understand the things that you guys understand is that, hormones act like a symphony and they all do need to be, working together. And I think that's when he talks about hormones being a prevention or a preventative type mechanism, like Amber said, low T being more dangerous than high T. I think when he says you got to go to someone that knows what they're doing, he's talking about understanding that dance and understanding, like Kara said, that you have to get the progesterone right. You have to make sure that a man's not aromatizing into estrogen and things of that nature. So I find that fascinating and something that comes out in everything that he brings out with hormones. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And you bring up a good point, Ben, because we do monitor the estradiol, the estrogen in men too, about the aromatizing of testosterone over into estradiol. So that is very important. We don't want those levels to be too high in men. So it's in both ways.
Yeah, it's so important to not be perfect, but you got to be darn good, because I think some of the stigma about hormones relates to people who just don't do it that well. It's more complicated than you think. It's more complicated than a T level, and I think that's why it was such a big part of Men's Health Month at Performance Medicine, was because through hormones we can treat so many different things, or we can look at so many other things and protect a man, is at least the way I took it. And as providers, you guys might take it a little step further, but that's kind of what I got from it. So anyways, is there any final thoughts before we get off here and I end my debut at the Mid-Level Show?
You're doing fabulous.
Amber, you go ahead. Talk to us, final thoughts on Men's Health Month. And, we've talked about prostate health. We've talked about belly fat, Cialis, low T, myths of testosterone. What really stood out to you this month?
Listen to your wife.
That's gonna be the title of the show.
I'm sending this to Scott. No, I'm just kidding. No, but honestly, it is. Just listen. I hope that people who have friends, maybe you listen to this podcast and you have a friend who you're thinking of, like, oh man, or I work with someone or this. So just take ownership of your health. If you're a man, and you are more likely to die of 9 out of 10 causes. Leading causes of death, but just take ownership of your health. Come in, get checked, get your hormones checked. We talked about cancer and heart disease and things like that, and it's not just about your hormones, it's about your health, and we do that pretty well at Performance Medicine. So,
Kara, what's your final thoughts? What is Men's Health Month brought out in you, whether you've seen patients in the office, through your talks with Dr. Rogers and Andy and Amber and Fran, of course? Like, what's some of your summary?
Well, we've covered pretty much all of the main points that are related to men's health this month, and I think bringing up the myths that he talks about in the doctor's note are very important, because sometimes you can get the wrong information. You can read it online or hear it from a friend or a family member, but seeing an expert and getting evaluated, sometimes it could be related to something else, and treating our patients holistically, I think is really important too. Not just focusing on just one thing, but the whole patient is important.
I love it, and I'll just give some of my 2 cents based on my conversations with Dr. Rogers and as we were putting together these doctor's notes, I think that the huge message that I got from him was, don't be scared to go to your doctor. A lot of males, they have this fear about it. And I think what he's saying is, like Amber said, get your hormones checked, come in, it's the safe thing to do. And I think, we talked a little bit about the prostate check and how, there's some fear involved. And I really think he did a good job of explaining it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just something you got to do. Get in here, get your hormones checked, make sure everything's okay, and it's going to pay off in the long run. And I love the idea of doing things today for the person you're going to be 10 years later, 15 years later. And I think that's kind of the message of Men's Health Month, with some of these labs that we're wanting to get on men, some of the exams we're wanting to do. So yeah, I got a lot out of it. I had so much fun doing it, and listening to you guys talk about men's health. You guys bring such a unique perspective that is so valuable. And I just have to say, because I'm a complete outsider here, but I hear what people are saying. They love this show. They love the value you guys are bringing. And I just want to acknowledge you guys for doing this. I know it's right in the middle of your day, and Kara's in the office right now, and I know that Amber's got a million things going on at home. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for being here and doing this show every week with us. I know that I speak on behalf of the people listening. It means a lot to us. So guys, thank you. I'm going to let everybody go, and I know we got to roll. We will see you guys next time. To the listeners out there, thank you for checking out the Mid-Level